Nationalism. You've probably heard that word thrown around a lot. It's this huge idea that can build up entire countries, inspire incredible art, and give people a real sense of belonging. But it can also be a spark that sets the entire world on fire. So how on earth does that happen? Let's dive in and find out.
It's kind of a mind bender, isn't it? How can something that feels so positive, loving your country, your people, your culture, how can that become the fuse for one of the deadliest wars in all of human history? That is the big question we're tackling today.
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to start with the basics. What even is nationalism? Because as you're about to see, it's a total double-edged sword. When you boil it all down, it's a pretty simple and, a really powerful idea. It's just the belief that if you're a group of people who share a language, a culture, a history, you should have your own independent nation, your own country. It's all about deciding your own future.
And this is where it gets complicated. Because for every us that nationalism creates, it also creates a them. And that's where that feeling of pride and unity can turn sour, creating these deep, deep divisions that can explode into resentment and, even violence.
So, let's look at Europe back in the early 1900s. What's wild is how this one idea, nationalism, had completely opposite effects depending on where you were. It could make a country stronger than ever, or it could tear it apart at the seams. Okay, so check this out. In a place like Germany, nationalism was like superglue. It brought everyone together, made them fiercely loyal, and it ramped up the militarism and rivalries with their neighbors. But then you look at a place like the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Whoa! It was this giant patchwork of different peoples. Germans, Hungarians, all sorts of Slavic groups, all under one emperor. For them, nationalism wasn't glue, it was acid. It was literally dissolving the empire from the inside out, with every single group wanting to break off and form their own country. And if you're looking for the absolute ground zero for all this tension, you've got to look at the Balkans. The region became famous for being unstable, and for good reason. People started calling it the powder keg of Europe, just waiting for a spark. Yeah, this really sums it up perfectly. The Balkans were just this chaotic crossroads. You had these massive empires like Austria-Hungary and Russia trying to control things, and at the very same time, you had these new, scrappy nations trying to fight for their own piece of the pie. And man, what a dangerous mix it was. You've got the Ottoman Empire, which used to run things, just falling apart. That leaves a huge power vacuum. Then you have new countries like Serbia getting ambitious, looking to grab more land. And to top it all off, a whole lot of Slavic people felt they were being oppressed by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It was just a perfect storm. So you have this whole region just simmering with tension. That powder keg we mentioned, it's sitting there, packed full. All it's going to take is one tiny spark. And who's going to provide that spark? Will enter groups like the Black Hand. This was a secret Serbian nationalist group, and their goal was to create a massive Greater Serbia. For them, this was everything, and they believed that any means necessary, including terrorism and assassination, were totally on the table to achieve it. So here's the chain reaction. First, you have these radical groups who are convinced that violence is the only answer. That leads them to plot the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. And they pull it off. That single gunshot in Sarajevo, that's the spark. It lights the fuse on the powder keg. A chain reaction of alliances gets triggered, and suddenly, all of Europe is dragged into war. So let's just take a breath and step back for a second. When you look at the big picture, it's pretty staggering. All of that devastation all started with one powerful idea. The really important takeaway here is that World War I wasn't just about generals moving armies around on a map. No, it was fueled by something way more personal and powerful: nationalism. That deep desire for your own country, that burning resentment against another empire, it all created a straight line to one of the worst catastrophes in human history. And that really is the story of nationalism. It's two sides of the same coin. On one side, you have this incredible power to unite people and fill them with pride. But on the other, well, we've seen what it can do. It can unleash absolute horror. It's never simple, and it's always powerful. And here's the thing. That double-edged sword, it's still here. This isn't just a history lesson. The very same force that shapes the world we live in today, that gives so many of us a sense of who we are, it still has that same potential to create conflict. Which leaves us with a pretty chilling thought, doesn't it? If nationalism is what built our world,
could it also be the thing that tears it all down?